Hello YouTube, I'm just going to be doing a short video on p-values in statistics. This usually goes along with hypothesis testing, and generally your hypotheses are that, say, two things are the same or they're different. That's pretty much what these means, that mu1 equals mu2 means the two populations are the same, and if they're not equal to each other, that means they're not the same. So say you did your statistical test and you found the distribution here, you calculated your test statistic, and you got 2.07, and then you figured out, okay, that contains 96.16% of the data that's distributed here. Well, what we're going to do is when you're calculating for your alpha, we're going to pretend that the alpha is exactly at the critical value when calculating your p-value. And a p-value, the p means probability. So what's in the outside here, or this rejection region, I guess you could say, on the tails, that you add those, find out what those areas are, you figure out that it adds up to 0.0384 or 3.84%. And what that means is that 3.84% of the time you will find a value that will happen out there by chance. And that's what this is testing, the probability of you getting that by chance. So that's where the probability comes from here. So that would be your p-value, your 0.0384% chance, or excuse me, 0.0384 or 3.84% chance of you getting a data point outside or in that region over there. So if your p-value is smaller than your alpha, and say your alpha is generally 0.05, so you have a 95% confidence level, alpha is the thing that is outside that, so that would be 0.05. So if it is smaller than your alpha, so we look at 0.05 comparing it to 0.0384, then you reject the null hypothesis. Rejecting the null hypothesis means that they are not the same, and rather that the populations are different. In other words, we are accepting the alternative. So if you reject the null, that means your research, for example, is correct in terms of how, from your statistical conclusions, you've determined that your research, that there is a difference here. However, if your p-value is larger than your alpha, that means you do not reject the null hypothesis and you realize, oh, it is the same, and you keep it the way it's kind of as the original thought. So that is kind of the thought process of p-values. Kind of just thought I'd do a brief, short, maybe 2.5–3 minute video just to kind of talk about it a little bit. Hope this kind of helped as a general overview.